the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Beyond description, prajna paramita, unborn, unceasing, the very essence of space, yet it can be explained as the wisdom of our own awareness. Knowledge to the mother of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. In the language of India, Bhagavati prajna paramita tridaya. In the language of Tibet, Chogyu Lama Shira Ki Bardo Chimpe Ningpo. In English, the Heart Sutra. In one volume, homage to the Bhagavati Prajna Paramita. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of monks and a great gathering of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that examines the dharmas called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the black skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should those noble men and women learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? Thus he spoke, and noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those noble men and women who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form, and form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, concept, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness, and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no concept, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no dharmas, and no quality sight, and so on until no quality of thought, and no quality of mind consciousness. There is no ignorance, and no wearing out of ignorance, and so on until no old age and death, nor their wearing out. In the same way, there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment of the bodhisattvas, they abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed and true and complete enlightenment by means of transcendent knowledge. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of transcendent knowledge is proclaimed. Deyata Om Gade Gade Para Gade Para Samgade Bodhisattva. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should learn the profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the noble Amitabha Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, well done, noble son, it is so, it is just so. Profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra and the noble Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering and the world with its gods, men, asuras, and gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Homage to the Lama, homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha, homage to the Great Mother, Prajnaparamita. From paying homage to these, may these words of mine come true. Just as long ago the king of the gods, Indra, from contemplating on the profound meaning of the Prajnaparamita, the Great Mother, and reciting its words, was able to avert demonic forces and other negative influences, so in the very same way, from my own contemplation on the profound meaning of the Prajnaparamita, Buddha, the Great Mother, and recitation of its words, by the power of the truth of the Lama and the Three Jewels, may all obstacles to the teaching, listening, hearing, contemplation, and meditation on the Dharma be averted. May they be eliminated. May they be pacified. May they be completely pacified. Whatever is interdependent, arising from connection, is without cessation and without birth, without end and without permanence, without coming and without going, without division and without unity of meaning, all conditions fully released, teaching released, I bow to the sacred words of the perfect Buddha. May there be good fortune, pacifying the 80,000 types of obstructors, removing harmful, unfavorable circumstances, accomplishing and perfecting those that are favorable. By such auspiciousness, may happiness and excellence be here right now. I prostrate to the Bhagavan Manjushri. Your mind is completely pure and luminous, like the sun free from the clouds of the two obscurations. You hold the text at your heart, since you see all the varieties of objects just as they are. You love like your only child all the multitudes of beings who are trapped by the darkness of ignorance and the prison of samsara and afflicted by suffering. Your speech possessing the 16 kinds of melody roars mightily like a dragon. Thus you awaken from the sleep of the kleshas, liberate from the chains of karma, and dispel the darkness of ignorance. You hold aloft a sword, since you cut all the sprouts of suffering. You are primordially pure and have completed the 10 bhumis. You have perfected all the qualities. The kaya of the elder son of the victorious one is adorned with the 112 ornaments. You dispel the darkness of my mind. I pay homage to Manjushri. By the rays of your kind supreme knowledge, dispel the dark ignorance of my mind, that I might understand the teachings and the commentaries as in the canon. I beseech you to grant the luminosity of confident wisdom. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. To the lamas who possess the 3 kayas, I offer the outer, inner, and secret offerings, with my body, wealth, and all that is visible. Please grant me the supreme realization, enlightenment. Whatever merit I have gathered through confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma, of the 2 vehicles and their combination, according to the dispositions and mental the mental capacities of sentient beings.
morning. Good morning. Today was the Katan. Io lembe kabla. Today, Karhyore Lavina today. Tambo Hame Kotachi, Semchi, today, ya so to Nengazuda. Long, Lungu Sades, Lavioa. Long, long. Intadi, Noria Sades, Tinimados. Tinida, what Namshit, long you put in Yamdo Sades.
Oh, right, yeah. So he wanted to actually correct something that he said yesterday, which is that, so yesterday when we were talking about conception, and how like there's the formation of the kind of substance that becomes the being, the person. So there's the drops of the or fluids of the father and the mother, and the consciousness that enters in between, and then you have like the kind of goopy substance of the being, and then there is, he mentioned that the wind doesn't come until later. He said that comes at a later stage, but actually that's not correct. He said it's actually that the wind and the consciousness are united. So as soon as the consciousness enters, then wind is there. Life force wind is there. So there was the questions, if you remember, about life force wind, and that was how this came up.
Long day for Samsara, or long do what you said, long say at the Latama on New Paji, you're in a long Corona, Casabore, formed or so do to be Lungu Marwa. Tin long, the Penanga to the Pove Kabla, Poya Kandiki Pargu Yori Lavina, Namshia Pargu Yori, in a young long time with Samson getting it, Yapando Yorwa. In the same thing, long Yoris.
So the mind and the wind are very much connected and kind of are together. So it is. So when we gain control over the wind or over the mind, then there's a very powerful kind of force there. So when wind doesn't have form, but for instance, when you're practicing poa, the way that the consciousness is propelled upward through the central channel is because there is, the wind, the mind, and the visualization are all united. So the bindu that is representing the consciousness, and then with the wind, you're propelling it upward. And so this is how the consciousness then ejects the aperture from the aperture of Brahma at the time of death. Simsuya?
Yeah, looking for the mind.
Oh, okay.
Tini tega na ye ke tini ta sem de karenda go junga hi na le sem de karenda go do se ya ji yores 대비 뒤나오는 데는 맞다. 심수티강랑 모두 가블라테네. 샘데 간디도 라두티네. 샘데 단 중앙 롱도도 송거레스.
So also in some Dzogchen teachings, when there is the process of looking for the mind or investigating the nature of mind, then there is the question that arises, is mind like any of the four elements? Can you say that it is the nature of the four elements? And then in the introduction, in trying to recognize or understand the nature of mind, then the conclusion that one comes to is that it is most like the element of wind. So they're actually co-emergent, mind and wind. They're kind of an indivisible unity, if you will. They're kind of together.
다 가서 초점 휴바리다 오세가는 내 톰는 저다나 독남 대기레 휴인바 이내양다 오세세야 다 간디지레세야지 다 벤송도 이제 휴비나스.
So yesterday where we left off was in talking about, the inner process of dissolution and the dawning of the clear light luminosity, and we discussed how, depending on how long, one is able to maintain recognition of and abide within the clear light luminosity, this is actually very often what is happening in the process of tukdam. So for however long, the body is able to stay, seated in the meditation position, and there's, still like warmth and some vitality somewhat still in the body of the person who has died, that this duration is determined by, however long at that point the practitioner is remaining in that meditative absorption of clear light, still subtly connected with the body. So if we wonder, then
Rita de la ibati tangatsu getanga ki oseseya kandiji gores.
So if we if we wonder, like, okay, so what is this clear light like? What is the clear light luminosity like?
Dangatsu nawantela getang tini namka lonji ki jiansong tangtewa songdowa tiji yores tini jananjima dawa mumbasun mewa wada tindijik la tini namkata be pambo sorta drum scenery tini jik wazer nime kita shokia namlang wi kap tini kita light doji namka be tapriya jayong ma doji o tindijik tini jik yores
Namwa.
Yeah.
So with the stages, the inner stages of dissolution, first there is appearance. So the experience of appearance is said to be like the sky without like three characteristics. So those three characteristics being without the presence of the sun, without the presence of the moon, and without darkness. So it's actually kind of like the break of dawn. It's like a sky in which the sunlight has just started to sort of suffuse the sky, but it's not like the full, like the full rays or the full kind of light of the sun that is really starting to rise. So it's like a sky at daybreak or at dawn.
Oda tiga nai nga su gom jagirwa, gom jagdu tene da sem tiyang tene nga su ta te pena chakya da thangbo de taki kari yungare siyubina da sem neya kichi de tene sem neya gugu yore tene hine jik den jen teme la so beke tene gom ne thang sem neya gurwa 샘 계시 내나 샘 내용을 까불라 근데 갈래 샘도 뭐 갈세 버리 춘도 뭐 소마다 오직 자반도 그러고 배나 자반도 그러고 배나 춘도 오래 양나 롱도 오래 간다다 근데 그 잠댐 댐도 오진 잠댐데 가르쳐 그래 라비나 근데 갈세 넘버 또 이렇게 되네 요하면 맞지 남토 때는 다티 고 갈세 버지다 템세나리 간다야 남토 때는 매화세나리 때는 남토 요유치 메도 바되네 셈 생에 라도 생에 한벨 소다 근데 이제 그때는 셈생에 이제 내용을 까불라 다 뒤가 셈 세세지 그거다 세팅 등도지 다 남주도 오이다 가서 셈 세팅이 세 요만에 가서는 나서 남도 장냥 이거를 되는 그 셈제 담마세다 셈 코나 칠레 코나 가서 TV 고소 요마와 얘네 보다 넘버로 똑바로 봐 예배 까불라 근데 셈도 보지 셈 세세지 그거와 보다 뒤 다다수 노래 센스 is
So Tesco sometimes and that in Nama Chico Gandhi Sumyurwatani Chipa than near to the Hakogo.
다들 가르치는 군중에 그와 집안이 더 가서 나와 가람 나갈람도 집안이 더 오세요.
In a young than that the Nama Chipo so Usa than the water baby dawn or baby.
또 오세요.
Oh, Chinama song.
Okay,
so clarification. What
so
I misunderstood when he was talking about the sky like at daybreak. That is not connected with the experience of appearance. It's actually the clear light. So it's like when the following appearance increase near attainment. And then there's the dawning of clear light. And so the best way, that was the description to describe what that luminosity of awareness is like. And so... So he did say the word appearance, but he meant it in a different context. Yeah, so like the appearance of the radiance of awareness. So he said, now when we, what kind of happens is that when we have this experience, for instance, in meditation or some aspect of it in meditation, so when we are meditating, first we have to still the mind.
So this many ways to understanding killer light. So not only after that.
And so for instance, we can understand or we can have a glimpse or have some experience of it while we're living particularly through meditation. So when we meditate, first we have to apply methods, and there are the different structures, particularly for instance in the context of Mahamudra, you have like the different stages of meditation, with characteristics, without characteristics, with support, without support, and so on. And so first we have to apply methods to still the mind, so through the practice of calm abiding or shamatha. And so this is, essentially like a settling of the activity of discursive proliferation so that the mind actually becomes still. This is really important because without that, then there's no way to receive a glimpse of the natural radiance of awareness because it's obscured by the flow of discursive proliferation. So we have to cause the mind to abide, and that is, through a stilling and settling, pacifying the mind of discursive thinking. So we're resting in stillness, and in a state that is without discursive proliferation, without like movement, the movement or agitation of like conceptual activity, then the mind becomes very still, and there is the kind of vivid luminosity or clarity of aspect of the mind can shine forth. It can become visible, but it isn't visible. Without meditation, it is not visible because what is visible, or what it is that we're experiencing the mind as, is discursive proliferation all the time. So the discursive proliferation has to subside, it has to settle, it has to become still. The mind has to become still in order for the natural radiance of awareness to become visible.
Oda ti inu that same the song the lao do. Oda ti inu ma so hene rap den de bi hang tong ke song do da. Hene ya ma so hene ne bi na. Hene sem ke da da wo se se ne da ha ge song song de ba ti do la de sem ji ke rang yi. De ne wo se wa de tong to yes.
So it is said that really perfected calm abiding, or when the mind is able to thoroughly rest in calm abiding, then there is insight, or special insight. And so this is what is required for the clear light luminosity of awareness to reveal itself, as the mind has to be able to thoroughly rest.
Oda ti inu da ke tang ma so de song ro da bom ja ba ben na cha cha chen bo gong bi ka la ka ling go sna no ja ba de tong ke ting yin zi song ro ti inu da de bi ke ting yin zi de yang je ma chung ga de wa go bu do ma de wa bom sen ko de tong ke de bi ting yin zi de ya yo ma ro yin bi na ya da ta da di sem ke se tong pe de se tong so be ani je se wo tindi je dang la ne o be ka la tene fan yi sho ke tene ta ko je ro ma so de bi ki ting yin zi le go da de bi ting yin zi de ki si le bi na identifico but yin ta le bi na tene ma so di identifico can nothing rely on the body la tene kan to go ma re kana ma so body de ko na bi yo na re sa bi yo na re Shirionare, Daparabeno, functioning in Nare Kadina till the two. The ordinary Karsana, Macho Karsana, body to the Oro. What in that you must have Naviore, Tenea, that they will mean that they will be what we were at in a Kandako. Matus the Karsana, so tea ketene, done as a same Tindo Goroa. Teneta, Tikana, Namtok Tindo, Gawa, mathematics chadang la so pa ta ti do lo yin na ya ta sem wo se khang mo la ne bi na de ne kharsana ma so sugul sugul do ma ko ba do cha bi yo res
So in the context of Mahamudra, there's often, the mention of samadhi, or the meditative absorption that is the union of bliss and emptiness. And so, of course, everyone wants to feel bliss. So there's the feeling of, how can I get bliss to arise? But I want to experience bliss. But we can't will bliss into being. We can't sort of just cause bliss to arise by wanting it. In fact, the opposite occurs. There can't be craving for it to arise. But what does cause it to arise is establishing the still, fully rested, concentrated awareness. So, for instance, when there is some resting, real stillness or concentration, and there is some degree of like clarity and emptiness, in the mind without thoughts, or without following afterthoughts, because there's real concentrated absorption there. Then naturally, if the mind is still and concentrated, then bliss arises. That is the product of concentration. And so then the meditative absorption of bliss can arise. And when one is able to experience that or rest within that meditative absorption, then gradually one becomes completely independent of whatever is happening in the body. Like the mind doesn't rely at all or is not affected by the body. So for instance, if there's pain, if there is discomfort, as we are dying, when the body stops functioning, then one is able to abide in the meditative absorption that has been cultivated, like the union of bliss and emptiness, the union of clarity and emptiness, without the mind falling under the control of whatever it is that's happening in the body. So it is, it isn't together. Ordinarily, if we have pain in the body, then our mind is also afflicted by that pain. But with the development of meditative concentration, meditative absorption, then one becomes independent of those ordinary thoughts of attachment and aversion, and so is not under the control of or the influence of whatever it is that's happening on a physical level.
어쨌든 인류들이 내가 첨부를 인류다 대가나 이렇게 가서 대송벌에 당기 공유하나 희내 같은데 뭐 하서다 또 샘디 내부 비워내다 샘도 많이 있는 것도다 가서나 지투부가 말와 particular 가서나 다 가서 너로 주로 손도 너로 주로로 의미네요 너로 주로 통보 개체효 엄몰람이 흉행 저리되네 그 샘대 거라 지금 내비나 되는 룰이야 텔레텐 샘게 대통제야 제가 너 이렇게 다 되게 샘대 거 제지를 내 마토위나 배나 제가 다 되네 마르선도 그 줄루트 디스타는 좀 봐야로 들어와
왜 공타체가 I lost so lula tene 대통 제도 바디제라야
tene 디질다 배나 줄루도 의미나 디스타리엘라로 지금 소그로가 맞다 sono paio roku chimari namre ne karsa go menong sonyare no samgrawa ine yata tene ma do be kawla sam tene ena melang wa tene phato ena melang wose tat so no wina ko chi sem de la ko karsa no so rawaji mo to wina tene so chi melang la tangzi chi to ya tene karse ni debe kabla wasela tene ha kontoria tene ni debe kabla phadu ki karse kota temran tu ha koya ingu yo mare tene ta zo de sem ne chat ko sarwa.
So the most important thing really in all of this is shamatha, like really being able to establish single-pointed concentration and meditation, like to be able to thoroughly rest in calm abiding, because without that, none of the other steps are possible. Because it really comes down to this very important quality of concentration, meditative concentration. So, in the 6 yogas, for instance, the first one is Tummo. So, with Tummo is essentially, in some ways, a form of calm abiding, because it is dependent upon very strong concentration, meditative concentration, that there can actually arise heat in the body that is the nature of bliss. And so then independence upon one's meditative, the power of one's meditative concentration, then through the support of the body, the meditative absorption that is the union of bliss and emptiness can arise. But without first establishing tumo, then, for instance, the others of the 6 yogas, like illusory body, and dream yoga, these are actually said to be fairly easy in comparison. Well, they're easy if you have really achieved tumo and concentration, if you really gain control over the mind. Illusory body is said to be fairly easy compared to the others. The others are not. Like illusory body, understanding or viewing all phenomena is dreamlike and illusory, like, a reflection in a mirror, training yourself to see phenomena in this way. But then when it comes to dream yoga, bardo, clear light, these really are impossible unless you have developed, unless you really have control over your mind. Because without that, and without having really developed strong concentration, meditative concentration, there's no way to recognize deep sleep as clear light. There's no way to really be cognizant of the stages of dissolution as they happen as one's falling asleep. And so in this way, it really, without very, very refined and developed meditative concentration, there's no way to do any of these practices. Very
Take time. 어디 땅가 저기 다 벌도 대리 다 조체쇼데 땅가 저 벌도 장고요 와. 다 벌도 장야 대 조체쇼데 단기 공투 왔다 집장야 단기 공투 왔다 배나 양도 양네 태고야 돼 가르쳐야 요래 라미나 코르바이나레 다 랑키트네 지 이날에 텔라 가르치는 것은 줄루티 같은 제대로래서 줄루로와.
However, when it comes to illusory body, this is something we should be training in all the time. So, like with Bardo, and also this is really important for the practice of Bardo, so that we're able to see the Bardo experience as illusory, so that we're able, actually, the phenomena of this life, to see the phenomena of this life as illusory. So whether it's samsaric phenomena or whatever it is that appears in the bardo, we need to be able, in order to become free from the delusion that mistakenly apprehends these things as real, we have to be able to recognize them as dreamlike and illusory.
다디 하코나 되는 것은 biggest obscuration 가리요르세나 다 가서 희원나 예데 당지를 때네 되니 차단이 붙는 거 갈래데 그 누파노 효충도 좀 도그레스 되니 차단이 보대다 배는 difficult the absolutely 가르나오다 illusion 가르나데 레야 some carbonine 양고 갈래 텐디지 콤는 되네 차단 그 유들라 되니 갈래 가르나다 오 사모니디 장이 마도 마레 삼반도 말함다블레 삼반도 텐디지 하코비나 테네 가르나 나주 가르 디바디 거와 텐 디바티 헬로 디바 창로 거와 테네 나주다 통야 딱 베나 오세이나레 말라미나레 테네 파도데 통도 거레스
So like one thing to understand is that our biggest obscuration is the mind of self-grasping, and so therefore the mind of attachment and aversion. And so what happens is, once there is a kind of the fixation or apprehension of a sense of self, then directly proportionate to that, you have the reactive minds of either attachment or aversion. and are clinging to like a apprehension of true existence is directly connected with that. So as long as we have strong attachment and aversion, then it's very difficult to see phenomena as dreamlike and illusory. Because we're really taking things to be real, and for that reason we have strong reactions of attachment and aversion. But as we, like, little by little, sort of training oneself to see things as dreamlike and illusory, then eventually the objects of our attachment and aversion, we're able to see them as not being real, as being dreamlike and illusory, and so therefore then the mind of attachment and aversion diminishes. And eventually, our grasping can be overturned altogether. And so then it's just empty phenomena displaying with no reactivity at all. That is what kind of enables, like that when one trains, for instance, in clear light, dream yoga, Bardo, that's how we're relating with phenomena, with appearance.
이내 난 너를 휴나 따라서 이 참석 is too many words, too many explanation or 이내야 practical level 딱 가려있으나 딱 정말 샘내고 그래서.
So, sometimes there's too many words, too much explanation, it's all very philosophical and abstract. But what it really comes down to is we have to learn how to concentrate the mind. We have to learn how to abide in meditation. And that itself is enough.
아주 제른 조람 이슬라우도가 라지 데비네 칼라야 라테가나 베나가 좀 지텐 콜바노 마이 라지 데비네 칼라 제네서로 공부나와 제네서 에사마 제네서 뭐 하다 제네서 공도 카르보 헤제 차헤 라소베기드네 딘데요 삼바데 봄 대가나 이케 깜탱 라소바가 딘데 칸니 바데 봄 대곰네 제네 다 대공비 qabla 세오 옴토바 테네 다 대쇼랑 가서 조람 송도 라마 체지 되게 되는 다지 저 정말 봐 템네 로 치기 변다 계산 가서 사군들라 되게요래 치노 뭔거야 주 생생 공부야 이상 그러와 치노로 의미나 되네 지 현감 어다 변에 지내서 공부는 대화진 현감 네 바로 곰 근데 심지어는 이나야 딱 지내서 글라서 네 곰. 근데 타마디 진도 진지 텐트 나왔던 기들이 야 지내서 템 지내서 되었더니 야 칼레 오트셔네 셜레 템 당시에 칼레야 오다 틀리지 봐 근데 단기 그 나서 킬러 라이트와 근데 거기 지금 봐 셔트다 봐 예수 말와 남게 다 남게 이행라 다 이해서 봤으나리오 다 딘데게 나와더니 아주 내돈 다 냠자 되니지나 다 냠자 팀모라 내 토비나 당가서 워세시가 티가 레고래 당가서 비 원에 패널 그 디솔루션 가서 보디 디솔루션 차로 거래 힘이네 걸로 대차위 걸로 기슈랑 가서 다 워세가 량고도 하잖아 치게 가서 거래 때문에 나그 때문에 다참 오세가 레고다 단기 샘이랑 이 오세와 세야티고 내고로 어다티니 당가 저지 단다 프리퍼레이션 가서나 제랑 조그란 어다 들리게 되니 공기가 보여비나 되니 냐마진 가서 파이널 디솔루션 가나 되니 뭐니 그 지도 보여래서
So there are many methods for developing this meditative concentration. What in this tradition we mostly perhaps rely on are, and what is also very connected with Bardo, are the generation stage and completion stage yogas. So in the generation stage, this involves resting, using the object of concentration, or making the object of concentration the visualization of the deity. And so we really train ourselves to be able to rest our mind single-pointedly on the visualization of the deity. So in the case of, say, Chenrezig, with one face, white in color with one face and 4 arms, all of the hand implements and the silken garments and ornaments and so forth. And then we get even more fine or refined in our visualization by really visualizing the seed syllables surrounded by the mantra garland, rotating at the heart level as we recite the mantra, for instance. And we also train ourselves to see the outer environment as the pure realm, the beings therein, like all sentient beings, as the pure appearance of the deity. And so we have to be able to meditate very clearly with our attention, our concentrated, our meditation, really just resting on the form of the deity. And then we have the completion stage. So we dissolve the visualization that all sentient beings who are like the mandala of the deity, or the retinue of the deity, or in the outer environment, dissolves into all beings who are the deity. In the case of Chenrezig, like the outer environment is like Deva, Sukhavati, or the Potala, pure realm, and it dissolves into all beings dissolve into the main deity dissolves into the mantra garland, and which dissolves into the seed syllable Hri, and then slowly the seed syllable dissolves from the bottom up until you have just a tiny sliver, and then it just dissolves into clear light. And so this is really, and then if we can rest for a time, without any, following after any conceptual proliferation, then the clear light luminosity of awareness will appear to some extent, but this is not going to be exactly like the final dissolution that occurs at the time of death. So the real dissolution, it happens with the breakdown of the body. There's the dissolution and then the dawning of the clear light. But this is similar to what occurs in our meditation when we dissolve the generation stage into the completion stage, the meditation of the completion stage. And so if we familiarize ourselves with that process, and we familiarize ourselves with some aspect of our clear light nature in meditation, then it will be much more easily recognizable at the time of death. So, for instance, when the final dissolution happens at the time of death, and you have the 4 stages of outer, kind of the more coarser dissolution of the elements leading up to the death process, and then the inner subtle, very subtle stages of dissolution, and then the dawning of clear light luminosity. So as much as we are able to practice the generation and completion stage during our life, alternating between the two, then it will be something that will be of great assistance to us when that final dissolution happens at the time of death. So we read yesterday the last verse in the prayer that we read was, when our lifespan runs out and the power of the four elements declines, when medicines won't help, and the appetite for food and drink wanes, when the time comes for body and mind to separate, please bless us to be free from attachment to this life.
我的第一句，大家看了做的，听的这多，两年情感一呢，本来他说的多，家长辈两年情感这种，真的，听的上么帮助多，大个，上年去，这个应当这个面，还快要用嘛的，上面的，他这个我记得哇。When I take up la kadam bin something in so be nothing. Taco position, Jalamo, Yomarwa. You mean I am Jala Yoga, that's on the winner. Maybe this is like Tibetan tradition, Buddhism tradition, but then not his own thing or to provide a cup of Shagawa. Or Tenny Kaduna Kadam Bato get out. Getting not one cent a high Samjit provide a couple of
So in the old times with like the Kadampa practitioners of the past, they were one of their main, they were very focused on impermanence and death. And so there was always this attitude of like, who knows, like if I will live to see tomorrow, who knows how long I will live. And so they always were kind of prepared and ready for death. So it was said that, and they would stay in retreat and they never had many possessions. Everyone had a bowl, like everyone has their own bowl, their own cup, their own bowl. It kind of serves the purpose of both in Tibet. And there's a tradition where if someone dies, you turn their cup over, you turn their bowl over. So the Kadampa practitioners, before they went to sleep at night, they would always say, who knows if I'll wake up tomorrow? So anticipating that death might happen in their sleep, they would turn the bowl over at night.
The ordinary concept, the traditional concept is that Mandarawa. Not ordinary, those the feeling, sort of the attachment or the attachment feeling. Shigri somebody same tail of sort of your Tinity dog, traditional he was a governor when exciting the Yasarwa custom as a dog. Chung does not know what days on the library love nothing of exciting or he saw no Jitako, Sunny Himahe, they are going, somebody co preparation at all.
But it should be mentioned that, the idea of anticipating death for a real practitioner and an ordinary person, this is very different. For ordinary people, if we really think like, oh, I might die, and we really believe we might die tomorrow, we have attachments that arise, attachment to this life and fear about death and worry. But for a practitioner, it's like the opposite. It's like, I might die tomorrow, and they're totally excited and ready to die. Almost like a child anticipating their birthday. Their birthday is tomorrow. Tomorrow I might die, and they're really excited and happy about it.
Perché 6 months no in atene ko jala sama tongro jala sama mu parti hagre sta ko de chena to wana buji ko popular chagre tene metozo ko offering da wata saya tonya jala no tene puyoris ine yanta tene da wato do tene la tene sama sama kang kangbe na jala je me wa tene ma che tene wala te zong guo na zong 从小就得别想把公办的这，特别清楚啊。
So, like Drupon Rinpoche, for instance, he 6 month
Each 6 months.
Each 6 months. Okay.
Oh,
okay. So Drupon Rinpoche, it was said that or he would like every 6 months just like clear out all his possessions. He would give them away. Like some of you might know of Drupon Rinpoche, and he had become at that time very popular. So people were making offerings to him all the time, but he just was very intentional about not hanging on to anything, not storing up lots of possessions, so that he would be ready, to die at any time. And so, like every 6 months, he would give, he would make, offer whatever he had to the monastery or to different practitioners. He would give everything away, so that he never really stored up or accumulated much of anything. Oh, he would sell his things, and then he would give that money to the monastery
for the food.
For food. And at that and so then Drupon Rinpoche, who was also working at that time at the monastery, were you disciplinarian? He was the disciplinarian, and he would try to tell Drupon Rinpoche, like, you shouldn't get rid of everything. You need some of these things, like they'll be useful. Then you tomorrow, so like just hang on to some of these things, so that and he was just insistent. He would be like, no, if I die, I don't want people to have to like work on my behalf to like figure out what they have to do with different things and give them away or whatever.
That's all just a story, but
but it was really amazing because he just because like actually this was so skillful because he just kept it so that he never had any possessions or attachments that were like holding him down or binding him, because in general, we get very attached to our things. We accumulate things, and there's this mind of craving and attachment is really like the hook that binds us to samsara. And so when there is this, so like he would just like clean everything out every 6 months, like no possessions, nothing, that he was hanging on to. And so, so this really helps in creating that kind of feeling of independence and freedom, like, because then you can really see like things as illusory. There's no attachment to these illusory things, and one is really, free.
Next, him change lost in Namiam Medu, Chiwa Tachu be, Tadon Song to Revi, Doloi, Rango Ranka Corner, Punsapchi, Chiwa Lamdong, change lost.
Okay, so we can read starting from the second line on page 2 together. We can read it together. Even though we can never remain and death is certain, if we deceive ourselves with wishful thinking, still hoping to live, it will be a complete failure. Please bless us to navigate the path of death.
지 시그레 삼백 로지요나 되게 맞을까 preparation 때와 된 거예요. 근데 시그레 삼백 로지요나 네 그거 좀 뭐네 시약 돼 prepare 차디요레스.
So this is why, the acceptance of death is so important, that we are really aware of our possible death at any time, that we know we will die, that there's really kind of this acceptance of understanding that it could happen at any time. Then we're prepared. This becomes our preparation. So in Florida, there were two elderly nuns who lived in Florida. They were Western nuns. And they were quite elderly and actually sick for many years. And they had a television. And they said that everything they watched on TV was like a teaching. Oh no, sorry. They only watched teachings. They only watched Buddhist things.
What do you say?
They literally were watching. So they didn't really do much of anything, but they didn't, because they couldn't really at that point get around very much, but they always had teachings going or dharma, some dharma thing that they were always kind of having in the background. So every now and then Drupon Rinpoche would check in with them and say, "Oh, what are you up to? Are you doing circumambulation?" No, correct. Are you well? How are you doing? Yeah. And so they were always cheerful and yeah, we're doing well, but we're gonna die soon. We are about to die. We might die tomorrow.
Maybe one of them maybe die tomorrow.
One of us is probably gonna die.
But looks seems very happy, so that's kind of they might not complain, they say, of course, they're physically not well, and of course, they, really difficult functioning too sometimes. But interesting, it's kind of I was really surprised, they got the two bed, two bed is can remote control, you just stand up.
The a bed, like a hospital bed that with a remote control.
Yeah, standing up, and then this, whatever. This walking, those things. But it feels like they always smile. Just, but it feels like sometimes, he surgery last week. But it's not really complain at all. So just mainly is that, okay, maybe tomorrow die, maybe who knows. So that thing that for I think the real preparation of Chabi Sarwa. Tamatongazoda, Zotereda, Shigmare Zambanoji, Yana Hiak, Lomevanoji, Tina Tenazota, Kotakita, Yosamaris. In a Shigri does some great in a Yako, Chitili Tapara and Hikoji, Chivamata Madena, the name of this Chuchia, maybe Sarwa.
So, they were really prepared, and But for most of us, we sort of think we're not going to die anytime soon, or we don't like to think about death. We just kind of put it out of our minds, or we and we don't really prepare. We're not really ready. We sort of assume it will come eventually, but we're not really thinking about it. And so if we don't make a concerted effort to really constantly contemplate death and impermanence, then actually it's difficult to really practice Dharma because we don't have that sense of urgency.
But if
we think, like, if we have some denial, we're thinking, oh, I'm not going to die anytime soon, then we're really deceiving ourselves. Because no matter how long we live, it's not going to be that long. True.
Maybe very long, who knows?
So then the next verse, beginning at the bottom of page 2, we can recite this together. When the force of the agitated karmic winds destroys the channels and knots of the 5 chakras at the crown, throat, heart, navel, and secret place of this body of ours, may the sharp pain of the life channel being cut by the power of this be pacified in its own place.
long long umarchu sumutene yang gahi protection long umarchu yosarwa long umarchu be kabla long umarchu ne tene ta long te karsena tene te keta zandu le tene ta long umarchu sa de teve zandu wa teve zandu indi ta teve zandu tela tene teve zandu te ta nga so bena tumo ro re tumo te tene om de ka teve zandu tela tene 직 매로 다 가르스나 공 비기 메이크 톱게 가르스나 나도 지우 가자 이거 되게 까르거든요 뭐 남상고랑 대비 lempi도 와 대비 lempi도레스 대비 가는 멤버네 대비 가는 다 뒤가라 양 가자 라바나 이게 가서 대 클라라이트 기가라디 네 샘데오트 용거래 좀도 와 됐나 이게 되네 마기라 메드마 대비 가는 라바디가 Lulian, tout le monde est là, there was no super balance or left cigarettes.
But this,
Critici paravati delle gente la non colongai, colonga carino.
Ini yang di yang zero tempo yo kan So when there are these processes of the subtle dissolution that we talked about, whether we refer to it as appearance, increase, near attainment, or the white out, red out, and black out, then there is, for someone who is a practitioner, sometimes, especially for someone who's practiced Tumo, if one is able to abide with one's mind and the winds kind of united there below the navel, and the winds then enter into the central channel, and there is like the flame, like the Tumo flame, the heat or the bliss or radiance of the Tumo flame below the navel, and then from the warmth of that flame, then very quickly the drop at the at the crown, there's like the melting or the quick descension down to the fire below the navel, and then a very strong kind of entering into clear light. And at that moment, there's great bliss experienced by the mind, and for a moment, also really powerful bliss that pervades the body.
다들 유점 내내 뒤가 대외전이야 해운비가 라테네 다 샘대야 인간을 배우서와
공다?
인간다
왜 양차 바디기구나 태와라가리
다 대화라테네 대화 샘비를 요와로 인서와 테네 대야다 포원로 그랬네 야다 대인들 가서 다 댄저 중이 다 담보가 좀 걸어 잡도 댄저 중이 되는 처럼 댄저 중이는 되는 걸어 참고요와 Tieni ta tender jungi ti ta ka hakundo ina ta ti kam tender shete tene ko yelo gores.
So like reverse.
Te chine tene ya nyakal le gores sem ti nyakala. Ta sem ti ya ta dewa ne nyakal le.
So
dewe kabla. Tene
dewa yobe kabla.
Dewa
la yobe kabla.
Dewa ni gre. Ti kabla tene tender shem me wa cha gre.
Tender
She
me
va a tener junior wada divide hero some or hero divide by 3 tene ya
but divide by 3 kare chakare
tender junior wa
rede tene kare chakare ya ko ma so tender juni tene yang jire cha na kare
te juni chakra wa 다 양나들라 덴데 셰타 디조브스 차그레스 데베강라 테네 람산 리니 고 셈디야 닌갈 파르기 요서와 닌갈 파르가라 테네 덴데 셰 메와 차그레스
okay dene relation to
테네 다
tene ninga
테네 야선다 껴올라 테네 상원라 테네 야다 카스나 히든 통양으로 지네 테네 디가라 테네 덴데 셰 메와 차그레스 테네 다 가나 덴데 다 근데 레레레 다 저도 도로도 다 저도 되는 인다 냠내 진행요는 이거는 대화용 거래 이내 양태를 잡아면 받아 대외 기든지 템기도 우선 덴더스 메와 차기도 우선 대치네 그가 나이다 이게 대외 전도 이게 전도 되네 디베트 전도 상마된 해로 거와
And so for the practitioner, then if the mind is and wind is abiding there below the navel, then there's this process of kind of, maybe it sounds like a reverse order or kind of dissolution of links of they're the 12 links of dependent origination. So 4 of those links are kind of, I guess it sounds like he's saying, unraveled in reverse order at the navel, and then so there's like a dissolution that happens there, and an unraveling of the knots, like the knot of the root knot at the navel chakra, and then the consciousness travels up to the heart center, and then 4 of those links of dependent origination sort of dissolve, and there's unraveling of the root knot at the heart chakra, and then the consciousness ascends to the crown, and 4 more of those 12 links of dependent origination unravel or dissolve, and there's the unraveling of the kind of knot at the base of the crown chakra, and then for the practitioner, this is a blissful process, so they're able to abide within the state of bliss as this is occurring without attachment. And so, knowing that the root kind of knots, or the word is literally root knot, of the chakras are being, are unraveling. Yeah, so this is what is referred. So the karmic winds destroys the channels and knots of the 5 chakras. But he's describing it as 3. So like because this is connected with the 12 links of dependent origination in groups of 4. And so from the navel, wait, so it's Dindadi
Navel,
heart, throat. So not the crown, but the throat. So then the 12 links of dependent origination are exhausted. Sorry, so I said it incorrectly. I said the crown, but it was the throat. And then the consciousness goes up to the crown chakra. And exits, maybe? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The exit is particular. Come back a little.
If they're not a practitioner, it comes back from the crown.
So, then how goes on study 5 chakras, 4 chakras up with the.
Do people, do they know what they are, like the names?
Yeah.
Does anyone want to share or know what the 4 or 5 chakras are? Or describe them, I guess.
You mean like the 8 the spokes of the
I think so. I think
64
that's what it means.
the navel, right? 32 in the throat.
32 with the crown.
32 in the crown. What is it?
16.
Right, yeah.
Petals, weight petals going down.
This is a lot like
Weight
chakras.
petals going up. And weight
Yeah.
petals.
Yeah, same. It's always the same.
64 petals from the navel chakra.
Yeah. Same. It's always the same.
Or
64 petals from the navel chakra.
what's also?
Yeah. Also, at the navel chakra you have. So actually sometimes when it's 5, the 5th is the chakra, the secret place, of which there are 32 and green in color, 32 kind of spokes that come off the central channel that may comprise the first kind of layer of channels of the chakra. But mostly when we're practicing. So during the practice of the 6 yogas of Naropa, we don't usually visualize that secret chakra, so it's mostly just, the visualization of the 4 chakras that is relevant in the context of the practice of the 6 yogas. So you have then the 64 channels at the navel, or the chakra that is comprised of 64 channels at the navel, which is referred to as the wheel of emanation, or Nirmana chakra, right? And then at the heart, then leveled is the 8. It is blue. So the navel chakra, the shape of the chakra is kind of like an upside down umbrella. So that it's meaning that the chakras, that the channels are kind of like pointing upward. And then at the heart level, where you have the 8, mainly the 8 channels branching off of the central channel, and then this chakra is like a right side up umbrella. So meaning that the channels are facing downward. So it's like the navel chakra and the heart chakra are kind of like this. One is kind of reaching upward and the other is reaching down. And then for the throat chakra, where you have 16, there are mainly 16 channels that are coming off of the central channel, and this then is pointing upward, but the channels are like an overturned umbrella again. And then at the crown, you have 32, the chakra of great bliss. So the heart is the Dharma chakra, and the throat is the enjoyment chakra, or And then at the crown is the chakra of great bliss with 32 channels branching off of the main channel, the central channel, and like a right side up umbrella. So. So these are, at this time, these are like, they kind of die off in that death process. Right? They kind of die off. Or they wither up. So then we can read the next verse, which starts with the second line on page 3. So as the digestive fire declines, the wind energies dissipate and food cannot be assimilated. As the life-holding wind dissipates, awareness becomes dull. And as the downward clearing wind dissipates, control over bladder and bowels is lost. May we recognize the signs of the waning wind energies. So this is connected with what he spoke about yesterday when he talked about, the 5 root winds and the 5 branch winds, if you remember. So this is actually connected, referring to the dissipation or the decline of the 5 root winds. So then the next verse on page 4, first line on page 4, as the upward moving wind dissipates, we are unable to swallow food and drink. Speaking becomes difficult and we become short of breath. As the power of the pervading wind is exhausted, it becomes difficult to move. With death being certain at any time, may we be without regret.
Chindi dewa inka sane jen kolonga yi jigbi tu nechu sumu rangsa hewa ho pove menya lungchu semele songzi lungchu yingbi mese turser lungchu tichen chor lungnu nyambe dana ngo he ho chenju lungchu sekong megmeto tamji maju la he una tong chabji lungki 중식 구축 아 센데 치와 탁주 조메효 도지 륜데 당보 어서 도지 륜데 당보 종화시 타양 중기 제글라 직템세 지나서면 다나 해버렸다 가상라차로.
So should we read the next one? Okay. So then starting with the last line on page 4. This material body, first born from the 4 elements, in the end will also die with the 4 elements dissolving into one another. May we recognize the appearances of the outer, inner, and secret signs of this, and may we remember the Lama in our minds.
상감 추tem 류진 구축가 남게 다스 해봐 전힘모 상방 통당 류지 따워요 태양 라마 전방 마연효 충감 메라 템비 카추당 중지天힘 감시 요가위 해봐 저진 남타 도와다 외무 랑 차와 모히효 맹감 농나 템비 유두치 남타 명원미히 안보추 Santa Simi Mecher, David, Reze, Missing, Jumochi, Lumkam, Namhi Tembi, Chochi, Nanta Tubin, Tona Toncha, Santa Dume Tower, Red Pa Se, to do some lamp over temper shows.
So the next verse, when the earth element dissolves into water, the strength of the body is exhausted. The inner sign of this is awareness becoming dull and confused, and the secret sign is visual appearances arising like a mirage. At that time as well, may we not become distracted from remembering the law. May we not become distracted. Dadum. Okay, so the next one. From the water element dissolving into fire, moisture is drawn from mouth and nose and they dry out. We cannot speak anymore. Our awareness becomes restless, and the appearances of the secret sign arise like smoke, insubstantial and undulating. May we recognize these signs. Dadum. From the fire element dissolving into wind, the body becomes very hot. The inner sign of this is not recognizing people, and sense faculties becoming confused. And its secret sign is like mind like fireflies, at times clear and at others not. May we recognize these signs. When the air element dissolves into consciousness, the outer sign of this is the cessation of breathing. The inner is the arising of various delusional visual appearances, and the secret sign is clear awareness like a blazing torch. May we remember the profound path of Poa at this time.
나로 초도 이나스라와 나로 초도디 카리오레 라비나다 나도 프랙티스 양다 같이 거스나 유르 당 대간나 이가도다 물람 장기요레 근데 포와 장기요레 근데 오세 장기요레 오다 텐데치네 아주 마시기 오라 라와 마시기 오라 저 참마 장네 장데베가라 고 테네다가 저지 시야케 툴 하바이나 고 마시 오네 테네 아주 추구 포와 세야테네 고 아까잖아 저 아야라 이바테나 이코라 마시 오네 고라와도 타네 코라 베는 아주 두완도 와나이 테네 당아도 인세야지 투노 치네 테네 테네도 투비오레스.
So there is, here, and we went through yesterday, if you remember, he went through the description of everything that is being described here, basically. So this is the first stage of, the dissolution of the elements, which ends then with the last breath, and then when the last breath comes to a halt, then the body is pronounced dead. So at that time, for people who are relying mainly on Poa, that's like a moment for someone to practice Poa, for the consciousness to leave, from the aperture of Brahma. But in the practice of the 6 yogas, for somebody who has really habituated themselves to like clear light, or recognition of there's dharmakaya liberation that can occur even before the final moments of death, actually. So in the in the practices of the 6 yogas, where you have training in illusory body, clear dream yoga, Poa, clear light, Bardo. So for somebody who is really confident in like clear light, for instance, then the example of Drupon Rinpoche's uncle, who died not that long ago, and he explained, yesterday, how his uncle like knew he was going to die and kind of planned to die at a particular time based on, you know, like the different like conditions of like different days. And so he, you know, had complete control over like, you know, his death process, and so was able to just recognize the clear light luminosity of awareness, you know, even before the breakdown of the body occurred. You know, even before the breakdown of the body occurred. And that's what we refer to actually as Dharmakaya Poa. And that's what we refer to actually as Dharmakaya.
So, okay, so do you have some questions?
I have two experiences. One, Kundalini Yoga teacher and friend in Phoenix. I was able to be there while she was dying and experienced that these different stages actually do happen. I was able to watch and experience as things shut down with the body, and the energy though of that experience is actually quite intense. And so it's very good, in other words, to even though this is may be difficult, sometimes it seems a little heavy to focus on this subject. But then when you actually see it happening with somebody, I was grateful that I had the ability to be present while she was moving through these different stages of things shutting down, the different senses shutting down, and to stay calm. So this is very beneficial.
In assisting someone, even.
And assist to be, yes, if you are able to assist somebody that you care about deeply, you need to make it. And then the fact that she was a master Kundalini Yoga person, her consciousness was able to go through these stages. So it was nice to see someone who had the ability, you know, for their death, which you've seen many times, but I had not. And then my own experience, which I forget about, but I was drowning in the ocean when I was young, and I was conscious. Luckily, it had been meditating during that time, and so at the moment when I was caught in a riptide, and when I started to go down, luckily I started to let go of my body, and then my mind moved. I do remember the experience, and I don't know what stage this is, of the bright light coming, and my mind, you know, just being calm in that moment, but without awareness of my body. But then it almost was, there was a focused colored light that came. And then just as that was happening, and I was, you know, okay, I'm ready to let it go, I can go. Somebody came by on a surfboard and pulled me out. At that moment, I was rescued, and so I didn't go. But so what kind of stage?
What color was the light?
I'm trying to remember. It was almost a blue. It's been a very long time. It happened when I was young. But yeah, it was you know, but it almost draws you to consciousness. So was it helping my consciousness to move?
So it sounds like this is more of sort of a sharing of experience. So I'm repeating for the people on Zoom, so you can tell me if I got any of it wrong. So someone in the audience was saying that she had a friend who was a master Kundalini yoga teacher and friend who died in Phoenix, and she was there with her and really was able to identify these periods of dissolution that are described here. And it was very intense, the energy was very intense, but she was really grateful to have some background in this, to be able to identify and to really be present with the person who was dying through those stages, who also was able to be, it seemed from her perspective, very present through those stages of dissolution, and was really had an easeful transition at the time of death, being a master Kundalini yoga teacher. and so she was just sharing that, you know, even though these are kind of a heavy thing to contemplate, you know, but that not even just for our own sake at the time of death, but when we're with other people who are dying, that it can be really helpful in being able to assist people through that dying process. And then she also shared that she had her own near-death experience. She almost drowned and became and she had some meditation experience at that time, was caught in a riptide, and she had kind of let go of her body at one point, and her mind was calm and at peace, and there was like a bright light, but then there was this almost very focused colored light that appeared, and she was kind of wondering maybe what that was. And there was really kind of, it was at that point that she was really felt like, okay, now I really let go. But just at that moment, somebody on a surfboard came by and picked her up out of the water, and so she was saved from drowning.
Blue light yung cigarettes in that's a blue light combination with the white and blue combination charges.
So you know, and we asked her what color the light was, and she said she didn't fully remember. She thought it was maybe blue, and so Drupon Rinpoche was wondering if maybe it was, you know, it could have been, you know, like a what, you know, there are like these different experiences of light that happen in the dissolution, like the white out, the red out, the black out, but the white, sometimes white light can actually be sort of like blue. The blue and white are sort of interchangeable, that, you know, it might be white light, it might be more of like a blue light.
Direction, shadow jesamba,
so So you might have noticed that in Buddhist iconography that white and blue are sometimes interchangeable, because like, you know, we have, for instance, like the 5 colors of the 5 Buddha families. So like, for instance, the Eastern direction is sometimes, you know, sometimes Vajrasattva, sometimes it is Akshobhya, or the and so it is like, so sometimes white, it's associated with the color white, sometimes it's associated with the color blue, and then you have like the southern direction, Ratnasambhava, who's yellow, western direction, Amitabha, who's red, northern direction, Moga City, green. And then like also in the center, Vairocana or Samantabhadra, who is also either white or, you know, white or blue. So the white and blue sometimes are interchangeable. Just to know.
So there's a kind of a similar question from online. So Danny asks, some texts talk about the lights that appear when the elements dissolve. Yellow, blue, red, green, white. Does this happen before or after the white, red, black, and the clear light visions?
Well, if it's the elements, it would be before. Like the elements, if it is the elements dissolving, is that clear?
Yeah, he said specifically when the elements
The
dissolve.
Jungwaji Timdu Samsama Yang Lo Yang Rede La Lo Yoba Pache Di Galarit Nagi Lo Yang Di Pecha Kashi Nama Galarit Nagi Ura Wo Yang Shagi Rede Jungwade La. That's right, because he said actually the elements are associated with the different colors and the different directions. So each of the Buddha families has an element.
Right.
So each of the Buddha families has an element.
I have a question. Thank you so much for teaching today and translating. when it talks about the force of the agitated karma winds destroys the channels and knots of the 5 chakras and the crown, throat, heart, navel, and secret place. And then we went on to read details of that. So it talks about that they're agitated karmic winds, and it talks about it being painful.
Yeah.
And then we talked about all the different radiations of the chakras. Are each of those petals or beams or points dissolving? I guess per person, it would be placed at a different speed and in different manifestation. And having been a hospice nurse, I've seen a lot of deaths. And yet some of this, it from the outside looking at someone can be seen, but on the inside it talks about it being painful and remembering the lama. And I remember Virginia Blum saying something to me about that he would be there to assist. And then on the other question, so it's like a question about the karmic winds being painful and this process being painful, and the lama being present in our mind, but also can be present energetically to assist. And then also a question about can we use symbolically turning over the water offering cups at night as like a death? I may die tonight, so that's why I'm emptying the water cups.
So there were two, that was a long one to I was trying to follow you, so I wasn't but I'll just summarize. So somebody just asked the question, based on what we read in the text when it talked about the unraveling of the knots at each of the chakras, and it talked about it being painful, and there was mention of agitated karmic winds. And so the question was, and she was saying she works as a hospice nurse, and so sometimes she has watched a lot of people die, and that there's some of these signs that are very apparent from the outside, but then of course there's this internal process. It's hard to know exactly what is happening there, and that there is, it says, may I be, what page is this on, do we know? May I not forget the lama, or may I, page 5, page 5. And so she remembered, that Virginia Blum mentioned, that we should remember him at the time of death, and that he'll be there and able to assist through the practice if we do. So it says, may I not become distracted from remembering the lama. Wait, no, on page 5, it must be on the before that.
What I was questioning was, with these different spokes, are each of these karmically affected as these chakras dissolve? It talks about it being karmic.
So your question is kind of about what does that mean, the karmic agitation or the karmic wind? And the pain. Yeah, I didn't.
That's on page 2 and 3.
On page 2 and 3. Okay, yeah. Right. So le lung trupe, guys na le lung trupe tabi rang de chi de tewa sangningi yeah prolongai deni do jipe tu Zumo in Sarwa, so Zumo down, Jamadi, down the guys and a teacher that you put I don't do that, then I young chicken.
That is, Chetantanda the Ina Tamala Karsena, Tanati, Juma Hitembi Kabla, Tinikangi or is. Yet Tigana particular career sena, Tini, Jikta, so Suko de la Karhana, Terawa, Sasan Kolohe. Zola Kapa, Hengo Kabla, Tinia, sorwa sensation thing yores yine yang da 가르치는 가서 바도지 그 임바 하고와 템렘바 하거나 테니까니 강요 말이스 가르치는 거보다 테니지 거랑 이바 해로도 zam아도지 담아도단 중화신 중화 다랑라 비자 사출의 처음에 메롱서 지리네 지금 배 I think we later on afternoon tene konso be data go wado da sa temdo wado lo chu wado chu ju wado tene ki tsoro le bu sarwa tin ta sto ka sa ran yin jwa de hen do ko ta kan da su bo cha sa ma he bu yo chi he bu yo re na he bu yo re te he bu ka sa ko ti tsoro da yo sa re is ina pado yana chinga ina tela ni itu yo maris ina ko remind
legi yang de la tesa ga incident
o le wada le ma so le de ni hello go wa le da long.
So first of all, regarding the karma, the karmic, the agitated karmic winds destroying the channel. So that's what's happening because it's our karma that is manifesting our death. So
Time to die.
it is our time to die, and that is like our body is being destroyed, and so that is all the whole entire process is one that is karmic. And so then he said, in regarding the pain, so it is painful when actually, and I'll just add that because I kind of had that question too, because the way he described it when we were going through it was different because he was talking about the experience for a practitioner. So he actually described it as being blissful. But he said for somebody who is not a practitioner, then it is typically really uncomfortable because your body is breaking down, the elements are breaking down, the channels are breaking down, the channels and chakras are everything's kind of unraveling and breaking down, and so together with this can be very uncomfortable sensations. It can be painful. It can be very confusing and disorienting. And then later he's going to get into also kind of connected with dissolution of the element. There's as the elements dissolve, there can be very strange sounds, very strange movements that feel kind of falling into precipices and things like that. So it can, if one doesn't know what's going on, it can be painful, disorienting, and uncomfortable. But if someone is able to recognize and say, oh, this is the dissolution of the body, I'm dying, then it isn't necessarily so painful.
Tina morala bana tika la tine nga so lama thing do wa karsna da mo shelu do zamne lo ha kona ti pain yo maris oda de ran yi chai do ti ni tika la tine lama thaya tang tine sanji thaya ti yong bi do is
and so precisely to your point, if you're able to then remember the Lama at that time, or the Buddha at that time, and then be able to rest your mind with that refuge in the midst of that process, then there can even be a sense of joy, you feel protected, you feel at ease, you feel held in, the love of your guru and the love of the Buddha.
Yeah, sort of the feeling, sensation is kind of remind, prepare, remember the Lama or remember the Buddha.
So the sensation
kind of more kind of remind, remember kind of, okay, right now time to remember.
Now it's time to remember.
Right.
The feeling, the sensation.
So that kind of joy, I think, come up. But the ordinarily what the sensation, the confusion, I'm sick, and then the feeling is different, and it is physically, uncomfortable, so then come more confusing, more worry, But they truly different, and the practitioners and non-practitioners. So practitioners is kind of start joy, But the ordinary people start joy, worry, confusing, pain, expecting so on, so much kind of difficulty time. So.
From what I thought was after the cessation of the body, and the awareness goes into another Bardo state, then it goes through a bliss state, and then a scary state, and things like that. So that's all karmically directed winds, but the practitioner kind of sustaining that compassionate Lama, the process of the Lama.
리다가서 단다디 그 스테이지 리터너 치불로.
So for the people on Zoom, there was a follow-up question about, so remembering these teachings on the Bardo, that they're, like then, from what she remembers, then after this stage, when the consciousness separates from the body, there are kind of different stages that the consciousness goes through in the Bardo, some that are really frightening, and, what the conscious or the awareness of the practitioner is to remain, in that remembering of the Lama or in a state of practice. And so Drupon Rinpoche said, we're going to go through all these stages.
Okay, maybe one more I read.
Okay, so maybe we'll read one more then.
So nam hi nam ka them king so rong ga ji wo ka chan tor ta ha ba nam te we ma ta chen no ba nam ba hi thong ba mo hi hyo kham chen ju chu bi ju chen pe ka lam na lam ma ka na ra ma ka lam ma lam na thong cha tu som ra ji to ka ja chung ga na ji to be wu tu mo hi hyo
So then we'll read the next two verses, beginning at the top of page 8. We can read together. When consciousness dissolves into the space element, the six sense consciousnesses cease, the white element descends from the crown of the head, and the red element reverses upward from the navel. With the consciousness suffocated in between, may we recognize this. Due to the causes and conditions of the two elements ascending and descending, the whiteness, redness, and pitch black arise as self-appearances to us. The 80 thoughts that have the nature of the three poisons cease, and the radiance of appearance, increase, and attainment. May we recognize this. The white and red elements, the wind and mind converge, and we didn't read that. He didn't read that one. So yeah.
So shocks the karma long sem omar zombie two do the topic the hidden body hemi was a chuju good wrong also chava mosi shocks. 어디다 들어갔다.
Yeah, no, I know they're not particular Kirtan text. Okay, so we'll read the next one. The white and red elements, the winds and mind converge in the central channel. Their gathering being the primordially pure birthplace of the Sugata, the luminous Dharmakaya of the ground without residue arises directly to oneself. May we recognize this. So this goes through everything that we've really covered up to this point. The dissolution of the four elements, and then the subtle dissolution process that happens internally. I don't know why he says the birthplace of the Sugata. It's more like it's more like this is the primordial purity of the Buddha nature, the Tathagata Garbha. So we'll do the short dedication.
Which is page 38.
By this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the ways of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. May the teachings of the great Agompa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dhamma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.